Last night we talked about what's the goal. If we're going to find our path, how do we know what the signs are to tell us that we're on the right path, that tell us that we're heading in the right direction? Tonight I want to change the focus. Are we in shape? Are we in condition for the spiritual path? Are we equipped to carry out what needs to be done in our daily lives to follow Jesus? Now, in order to do that, there's a couple of things that I'd like to share. And I'm going to, again, what's true in our physical life is true in our spiritual life. If there's an athlete getting in training, I don't care what the sport is or what the event, let's say it's a marathon. Not because I run marathons. My sister does. And I give her full credit. I admire it. I personally think marathons were invented during the Inquisition to cause pain and suffering. But she runs them. And there's a couple of things. First, in order to do this, you need an external measurement. Like, how far did I run today? And how far did I travel today? And what was my time? These externals are crucial because you need something to measure your success and your progress. But then the second thing is, what's the pattern? Just because you ran today doesn't mean you can get away with not running for a week. Or, you know what, I missed a week, so I'm going to run a week's worth in one race. That doesn't work either. It's a pattern, the steady application of time. And then third, all of this work and effort, does it get me to my goal? See, at the end, whatever I'm doing for the training or the work or the preparation has to ultimately say, is it helping me cross that finish line? An external measurement, a pattern of behavior, and then finally, that target that says, am I heading where I'm supposed to? I want to talk about those three questions with these three very different aspects of life. They're going to be borrowed from what we heard last night, and we're going to build on it. The first area, stuff. Physical things and resources. And the second thing we're going to look at, people. And third, our personal life. Let's start with stuff. In order to talk about are we in shape, we got to look at the stuff that we have. And I'm going to put it to you this way. If I were to ask every one of us in the room to say, think for a moment about what your three most important values are in life. What would you say, and this is a hypothetical question, what would you say are the three most important priorities, the three most important values, that if all other things are equal, I have to put these as the top values in my life. This is important, this is crucial, this is critical. This is a very good question to ask. What are they? What are these big things? Okay. 1, 2, and 3, whatever they are. The external measurement is this. Pull out our checkbook and pull out our calendar. How did we spend our time and our money in the last week? In the last month? Now, let me be clear. This is after, you pay the bills and take care of the things that need to be taken care of. I'm talking about the money that's left over, the time that's left over, the discretionary time that we have. How did we spend it? What did we spend it on? The reason why I say that is because if what we spent our discretionary time and money on fits those big, important categories, we're on the right track. If I say that my family, if I say that my faith, if I say that, my dedication to really furthering a career, or, really promoting and providing for someone, or, I really want to put a big value in my life is being there for my friends. These are all good things. How does my time and money match up? Am I in shape? And by that I mean, if I say that certain activities are important, how am I aligning my time and my money? Time and money are easy things to measure. They're real simple. We just go through the checkbook. We go through the credit card statement. We go through the cash in our wallet and say, where did it go? How did I spend it? And what did I spend it on? My calendar some days just looks absolutely crazy and insane. But we look at our calendars and say, you know what? Where did I spend my time? With whom did I spend my time? Because if I claim you as important in my life and I never talk to you, I never see you, I never spend time with you, I never call, I never reach out, what is that saying? Time and money are external measures that very quickly help us get a handle on what are my real values. Because you can do this inversely. Forget the top 3 values for a moment. Set that aside. Look at the checkbook. Look at the calendar. What's the top expense of time and money? Well, that'll tell me what my top values are. At least it'll point me in the right direction. What are the top 3? That'll give me a direction. And sometimes this can be an affirmation. Sometimes this can say, yes, I'm in shape with regards to stuff and resources. Or it might go, I got work to do, don't I? It's meant to just help us to say, am I fit with regards to my stuff? And once we've taken a look at time and money, and once we've looked at how have we spent our time and spent our money, then the question is, what's the pattern? Because you know what? There's things we got to spend. And you know what? Sometimes life is meant to have a little fun. And you know, sometimes we're meant to take the blessings we've had and share them and celebrate and enjoy them. The question then is, what's the pattern of that? Do I spend all my time and all my money in a certain area, on a certain thing, and neglect other things? Or is it a good pattern? Is it balanced? Is it spread out? And do I like the way it's spread out? Do I like the way, I spend a little bit of time here and a little bit of time here, because time doesn't grow on trees. Neither does money. I keep trying to plant them in the backyard. They never come up. And the thing is, because time and money are precious, we're called to use them to the best of our ability. Okay, so what's the pattern? Am I doing a pretty good job to allocate time to my kids, to my friends, to my faith? And how am I doing with the money that I have to steward? How am I doing with how that is allocated? Or is it out of whack? Do I see that I'm spending a lot of money in some things and I kind of got to ask myself, are these the right things? Or, you know what, I spend money in certain things, but I also spend money in other things. And you know what, I'm okay with that. The pattern is okay. The pattern is very crucial because patterns reveal what's really going on in our lives. Let me give you an example. If I say I'm going to get in shape and I take one day and I really am physically conditioned, I'm walking, I'm exercising, I'm eating right, and then I say, okay, for the next 2 months I can take off. Eat what I want. Because I did it for one day. It was a really good day. That celery tasted great. Time and money, just because I spend one good day with time and money does not a good pattern make. We got to look at this thing over a chunk of time to how we use our time and how we use our money. And then again, the final goal. And I'm going to give you this as the question to always ask. Does it help me be a better disciple of Jesus? If I'm spending time and money, some things are neutral. Some things are neither really good or really bad. They just are. But we can often ask ourselves, if I'm spending time or money in this arena of life, on this activity, doing these things, is it helping me be a better disciple? I ask that because in the end of the day, our spiritual journey is being more like Christ, being disciples of Christ, conforming our lives to Christ. So how I spend my time and how I spend my money will give me a quick picture in how am I conforming my life to Jesus, to being His disciple. God has given us this earthly world to steward and use wisely and well. And so as we use it, and as we share it, and as we enjoy it, and as we savor it, and as we give it and do things with it, great. Is it helping us be better disciples? The external measure is time and money. The pattern is how is it being used in proportion with all the other things? And are the things that we have helping us, or frankly, are they hurting our relationship? Meaning, are they taking more time and effort away from God than giving to God? Are they becoming an obstacle or a bridge? Okay, that's stuff. Let's look at the second area, people. I want you for a moment, in the silence of your heart, to name the 5 most important people in your life. The 5. Now, by the way, some of you might say, Father, I got a bigger list. Fine. Start with the top 5. Start with the top 5. And by the way, Jesus does not fit in this. We're going to get to Jesus later. I'm talking about earthly people here in your life. Who are the top 5 most important people in your life right now? Think about this. Think about who they are. Think about their role in your life. Think about why they are so important to you. Kind of name them first and second, or maybe it's just a whole group because there's not an order, but they're in that top group. They're in the top tier. Once you've named them, then you can say, how much time do I spend with them? Now, I'm going to use time in 2 distinctly different ways. What's the amount of time I spent with these important people in the last week, month, couple months? How much time have I actually given the people who've made the top list? And recognizing that ours is a mobile culture and that some of our people are far away, the other question is, what's the quality of the time? Because sometimes, I've got a sister in Indianapolis. I would some days give my left arm, to be close enough where I could run home Sunday after Mass and have dinner with my sister, her husband, and the kids. It would be so cool to be able to do that, and I can't do that. It is 13 hours by car ride from here to Indianapolis where they live. I can't do it. So when I can carve out and squeeze out and separate time to be with my sister and her family, it is precious and it is gold. So I don't get a lot of time. I have to make that a priority and carve it out. So that's why sometimes I don't get a lot of time with Amy. But will I fight and kick and scratch and claw to get some time with Amy? You see the difference? So have we made a priority of time for those important people? Because here's the inverse. Because that time is, again, the external measure. Here's the other side to it. Who have I been spending time with? Who are the people I've been hanging out with today, this week? The people that we spend our time with reveal our values and our priorities and who's important. And I say this because sometimes we look at the list and go, oh boy, I'm spending a lot of time with certain people. That might be a really good clue to say, I recognize, Lord, these are important people in my life, and maybe I needed a smack upside the head to understand the gift that they are to me. Maybe I just haven't called it what it is yet, but maybe I need to see that because of the time I am giving to these people, they really are at the top of my list. This could be a great thing, or it could be a challenging thing. Right now, it's still just a measure. It's just telling me that I'm spending a certain amount of time with a certain group of people, and that's cluing me into what I value. Because, what's the pattern? The only way I can look at that, the external measure is, are these people helping me be a better disciple? Some people in our lives are neutral. They're not necessarily helping us be really Christ-like, but they're not leading us astray. They're good people, but it's kind of neutral. But I'm talking about the extremes. Who are the people that help me be a better person? And we all know these are the people who draw out goodness in us. These are the people who, when we're with them, we're better. When we're around them, we shine. When we are in their presence, good things flow out. We become the best version of ourselves. We become more Christ-like. Because are there people that we're spending time with who are taking us astray? Are there people in our lives who are leading us in a different direction? Are there people who, by their very nature in our lives, are not leading us closer to Jesus? They're leading us somewhere else. You see, with people in our lives, we can look at this in some very clear and obvious ways, the time that we spend with people clues us into what's important to us. The pattern that we spend with those people will tell us, is it balanced? But are they leading us closer or farther away? Are they helping us be better disciples, or are they hurting? This is a very personal question. Because I know, like for when my sister goes running, there are certain people she wants to run with because they help her be a better runner. They help her, they inspire her, they encourage her, and they cheer her on. They have her best interest to be the best runner she can be. This is great. But then there are other people who, it's like, I don't want to run today. It might rain like tomorrow. I don't want to run today. I don't know, I kind of feeling maybe a cold coming on. Somebody sneezed the next block over, and I don't want to catch anything today. Some people really inspire us, and some people, they just don't help. Why this is so personal is that if we want to get in shape, part of our human existence is that we're not alone. I need you. You need me. We need each other. We're in this together. And if we lean on others and others aren't there to support us and we're not there to support them, then we have to ask ourselves the practical question, what's going on here? Are they helping me get in shape to follow Jesus, or are they in fact keeping me from getting in shape? Stuff and people. The last one, our personal life. This gets really interesting fast. I'm fond of talking about 4 quadrants in our lives: body, mind, heart, and soul. So the external measure for our personal life is health. Am I healthy? The external measure of health, I find very quick, and let's take the easiest one first: physical health. If I walked into the doctor's office right now, would I pass the physical? That's being real blunt. A lot of times we don't want to hear that. A lot of times we know if we are physically healthy, and I'm not talking about becoming an Olympic athlete here. I'm talking about, am I healthy? Because by the height and weight chart, I'm supposed to be 6'8". I think they just messed up with that. Sometimes the reality is, we got to confront our physical health. And we've got to quite honestly just admit, Lord, you gave me this body. You gave me this body. And we're told that our bodies are a temple. This is a very hard thing to have to say. Am I taking care of the temple? Am I taking care of this tabernacle? Because you realize that's what we become when we receive Holy Communion. When we walk up and we say amen to the body of Christ that's reserved in that tabernacle behind the altar, okay, becomes the body of Christ that resides in us. We become a living tabernacle. And, we put a lot of time and effort and resources into making our churches look beautiful and taking care of our churches. Do we put the time and effort to take care of our bodies? That's a real awkward thing to talk about. But the fact is that would I pass? Would I pass? Or are there practical things, external measurements that I can do to be healthy, to take care of my body? The reason why this is so important is because God tends to value human souls, and our souls reside in bodies. And so if we take care of the body, then we're taking care of the gift that God has given, because God has work for us to do. There are people in our lives that we touch. There are people in our lives that we can make better and bless and help. And in order to do that, we got to be in the best physical shape we can be in. We got to take care of our bodies so that our bodies are there to take care of us, to do whatever God has set before us today. Am I healthy physically? The pattern of that is a daily pattern. I'm talking about exercise, I'm talking about sleep, I'm talking about diet. Is it a good pattern? Because you know what? I tell you, I'm really good on Monday. Monday, because I look at the scale on Monday, and on Monday I go, oh yeah, I got to get in shape today. So I watch what I eat on Monday till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then the whole thing falls apart. What about Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday? What's the pattern of my life physically? That's the easy one. Because does the pattern of my physical life help me become a better disciple of Jesus, or is it hurting my discipleship? Frankly, if we're not physically well, then parts of us suffer. Okay, that's the physical life. The intellectual life, what am I reading and studying? Again, the external measurement here is, what was the last book I read that helped me be a better disciple? What's the last thing I have put into my mind in the last week or the last month to help me spiritually grow closer to Jesus? What have I done to nurture the thoughts in my life? If I'm going to run a race, I have to have a diet that's going to help give me energy and strength. I can't eat Doritos and Twinkies and expect to have the staying power to run that race. I'm an Italian, you're going to eat carbs. But you could, as long as it's healthy and wholesome food, you need good food to have the energy to just carry out the race. This is, what's the food, what's the diet to carry out the intellectual race? What am I chewing on intellectually? What am I feeding my mind and feeding my thoughts? So that I have the staying power, the conditioning to hang in there when challenging thoughts and challenging issues bubble up. Because, I don't know if you've noticed this, but sometimes if I get in a bad habit, if I'm kind of down, if I'm kind of in a bad mood, and a challenge hits me, I'm more apt to think poorly. Whereas if I'm in good shape, and my mind is clear, and my mind is focused, and a challenge comes, I deal with the challenge far better. The quality and content of my thinking dramatically improves my ability to handle challenges. Just as when a runner is in good shape, they can hit a challenge of a hill better. The external measure is, what have I put in my mind recently? What am I feeding my brain? And then we got to look at what's the pattern. Because here's the thing. If I have read one really good Catholic book, one really good spiritual book, and then I have read 100 trashy novels, something's out of whack here. There's literature, and then there's kind of an interpretation of literature, and then there's kind of something that's like way out there. But you see what I'm saying? If it's out of whack, I read that really good book. Father, you gave me that book at Christmas. I read that book, and then I've read a lot of, I wouldn't put them out at church kind of books. Where this gets really, really interesting is what I call screen time. How much time am I spending in front of the TV or the computer? Again, this can be very neutral. There's a lot of good, let me rephrase that. There is good programming and there is good material on the internet. But there's a lot of stuff that's not good. What am I putting into my mind? And how much time, it's an external measure, how much time every day am I parked in front of a screen, putting stuff in my head, putting stuff in my mind, because it affects how I think. It affects how I engage the world. These external measures, and then the pattern. Because, isn't it interesting? You know what, Father? I spend, every day, I call my mom, talk to her for 20 minutes, and then I watch TV for 5 hours. This is the alignment. I'm not saying TV's bad. I'm just saying we got to check the pattern to make sure. Once we've got the external measure, and you're noticing time is a big external measure. Time is a real quick way to get a handle on what am I doing. Once I've got the time marked off, then I can switch over and say, how much time am I giving to my family, to my friendships, to my spiritual life? How much time am I giving to be a better human being, to serving someone who needs help? The conditioning behind this then is, are my thinking, are my sources of my thinking, people, books, TV, internet, helping me be a better disciple of Jesus? Or is it hurting my ability to be a disciple of the Lord? Because if what I'm watching on the computer is destructive, I got to call that what it is, and I got to be real upfront and blunt. And if what I'm watching on television is not worthy of being like anywhere near the gospel book, I got to call it what it is. And if the stuff that I'm spending my free time on is frankly immoral, I got to call it what it is. Because we live in a culture where that scale has slid, and many of you can recognize that within your own lifetimes, things are on TV today that would have never been allowed. But because it creeps incrementally, because it kind of moves like a glacier, slowly but powerfully, certain things become normal. I'm not saying that they're good. I'm just saying that we can redefine what people are used to. We can get numb over time. We got to be constantly alert. So if my physical health is one aspect, and my intellectual health, what I'm doing with my time, and what I'm putting in my brain, this third part, my relational health. Just as I talked about the people in my life, this kind of swings back the other way. Do I make the people in my life a priority? Do I make them a priority? Or do I get caught up in my world and miss the people who are in front of me? Now, I need to be real clear. There are people we want to hang around with. There's some really great people that I would love to spend a lot of time with, and I would like to just spend only time with them because they're fun and they're great, and I love them. But the gospel reading we heard earlier today said there's also the face of Christ that's oftentimes right in front of us. There are folks who are suffering in our midst, and they're right in front of us. Now, we can't solve all the world's problems. And you know what? There is more need than we will ever be able to fulfill. But can we do our part from our corner of the vineyard to help at least somebody lighten that load? And maybe it's somebody who's carrying a weight emotionally. But maybe it's really simple. We got somebody who's just hungry. On a night like tonight, maybe there's somebody who's cold. Maybe there's somebody who doesn't have a place to live. Maybe there's somebody who doesn't have insurance for a medication. Maybe there's somebody who doesn't know how to read. Maybe there's somebody who doesn't know what it's like to be able to have a mom who loves them or a dad who's there for them. And maybe we're called not to be a parent, but to be that paternal or maternal figure, just to give them a little love. Maybe it just means we're called to be a good neighbor because our neighbor's hurting. A way to say this is, where do I see the face of Jesus in my life right now? Where do I see the face of Jesus in a neighbor, a relative, a friend, God forbid, in an enemy? You know, and enemies aren't just people who have, big mean guns. Maybe the enemy is the person who knows exactly where our button is and loves to push it all the time. I'm talking about malicious, just tries to get under our skin. Or maybe they're not well. My point is, there are sometimes people who are really hard to love. They're really difficult, and they take a lot of energy. I'm not saying that we allow bad things to run over us, but I am saying wherever we recognize human suffering, Are we doing our part? Are we doing at least to say, as far as I could in the relationship, I tried to make it better? Because sometimes I confront a situation, I can't fix it. It's bigger than me. I can't solve it. I can't break through it. My question is am I part of the solution or am I part of the problem? And then talk about that with our family and our friends. Are we helping? And I mean, this is active. Am I helping the people in my life be better? Am I striving, whether it's family or friends or neighbors or colleagues or coworkers or students or whoever's in my life, am I actually trying to be in their corner to say, I want to help you succeed. I want to help you be more loving and kind. I want you to be more fulfilled because you're important to me. You're either important to me because I love you and I know who you are, or you're important to me because you were made in the image and likeness of God. And because of that, I'm going to do what I can. And maybe it's something as simple as I'm just going to be kind going through the checkout line. I'm just going to be polite and civil, respectful. I'm going to treat you with dignity. Do the help I can within my reach, within my influence. Do I make people a priority in my life? The external measure, time. But then it's an intention too. Am I putting people in my life first? Or at least am I considering them before I consider other things? You'll notice these get very personal very fast. Our physical health, our intellectual health, our relational health. It gets very personal. Because very quickly, how we treat our bodies, how we treat our minds, how we treat others, This very quickly can get us into some very awkward places because there's almost always something physically and almost always something intellectually and almost always someone where we can improve. Great. That's what missions are for, to raise the awkward and the difficult and the challenging so that we can just put it out there and say, Lord, help me. Because that's where the fourth quadrant comes in, our spiritual life. How much time am I spending with Jesus every day? Let me make that blunt. How much time am I spending with the Lord every day? What makes this really interesting is if I compare how much time I'm spending with Jesus and how much time I'm spending in front of the TV, or how much time I'm spending with Jesus and how much time I'm spending it doing something completely innocuous. We don't have to spend an outrageous amount of time every day. Do we spend good quality time? Do we make it a priority to put the Lord's portion at the top of the list? To give the Lord that credit up front? Again, this gets personal. Time is the measure. Today did I pray? Yesterday did I pray? Have I been praying all week? What's the quality of my prayer? The time that I put in is one thing. If I'm basically sound asleep, I'll give you the example for myself. If I pray in the morning, my prayer is 10 times better than if I pray at night. In the morning, I'm ready to go because I'm a morning person. Bring it on. Usually there's a cup of coffee in my hand, but I am ready to go. By the end of the day, there's a fog. And you ever had that experience happen where, like, you're reading and you read the same page over and over, and you looked at the page and you go, I have no idea. So you read the page again, and you go, wah, 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 wah. Now get it. There are some days in the craziness of my ministry where I don't get to pray first thing in the morning. I should pray first thing in the morning. It's the best time for me to pray. That being said, some days it just doesn't happen. So there are days that it's the end of the day, and I'm going to pray my office, and I'm going to say my prayers, and my eyes are glazed over and cross-eyed, and I'm going, okay, Lord, it's me again. Here I am. I'm giving you what I got, and I know it's not much, but I'm praying, sort of, but I'm praying, and I'm trying, and this said amen, and okay, and I'm going to keep reading. The Lord knows. How much time are we giving Him? And what's the pattern of that time? And then, because prayer is supposed to draw us closer, help us be a better disciple. Sometimes we have to say, I need to change either what I'm praying or how I'm praying. And our prayers can change over time. I know some people who say, there was a time in my life where I would never pray a rosary. It wasn't the thing. And then they go, but now I love this. This is my prayer. This is great. And then there's some folks who say, you know what? I never read the Bible. I never knew anything about the Bible. Now I can't get enough of it. That's great. Somebody else might say, I grew up with its devotional book, and I have worn it out over and over, and this is my thing. I love this book. This book is I say these prayers. I love these prayers. These are the great prayers. Great. Whatever it is that's going to work for you, in the end, if you're finding a form of prayer and it's helping you be a better disciple of Jesus, that's the external measure. That's the test. That's how we know. Body, mind, heart, soul. Brothers and sisters, when a runner crosses the finish line, they're exhausted. They're exhausted. But while they are physically exhausted, internally they're rejoicing. They made it. They crossed the line. They did it. They got there. Our journey is to cross the line. And along the way, to live our lives directed towards Jesus. So that as we're running, maybe we fall. Maybe we fall flat on our face. Do we get back up? Because if a runner falls, and my sister has told me about times when she's fallen, you get back up. You get back up. You keep going. Maybe you have to walk for a little bit, but you get going. In all of these cases, whether it's with stuff, with people, or with ourselves, if something has really been broken, then one of the things that we do for conditioning is sometimes we just have to call it what it is and ask God for help. Formally, that is, we go to confession. Formally, that's where we acknowledge something is broken and we need God's grace, and God brings it. So what I want to leave us with tonight is, if there's something in my life with stuff or with people or myself that isn't good, isn't holy, bring it to Christ. If there's something going on in my life that needs to be changed to get me in the best shape possible so I can keep running, then you know what? Bring it to Jesus. Bring it to the Lord in our daily prayer. Bring it to the Lord in the sacrament of confession. Bring it to the Lord so that the Lord's grace, we don't have to do this alone. We lean on God, who comes to us, runs to us to help us. Because as we evaluate each and every part of our lives, as we get in the best shape possible, body, mind, heart, and soul, as we lean on and work with others, as we use the things in our life wisely, we call upon God for help and strength. We ask God for guidance and wisdom. We recognize we need heaven's help, because when we fall, okay, Lord, I'm going to get back up. Please help me. And God will give us the strength we need. God will do that out of love. May we trust in that love. And may we trust in the Lord's grace to help us as we continue on our path to get in the best shape possible to be His disciples. God bless you all.